Amazing revelation, fired Black CEO exposes hidden injustice company crumbles in 24 hours. Jordan Thompson sat in the boardroom, the towering glass windows of Chicago framing the sky as oppressive watched him. The disbelief on his face clashed with the crisp power suit he'd worn to climb to his rightful place as the CEO of a prominent tech firm. Just hours later, the news would unleash an avalanche of outrage and sympathy online. Being fired felt like a betrayal that cut deeper than any corporate maneuver. This wasn't just a job, this was a dream chased down an unforgiving road. Growing up in a modest Chicago neighborhood, Jordan shared a cramped apartment with his single mother, a relentless go-getter working 2, sometimes 3 jobs just to put food on the table. She taught him about grit and integrity. His childhood was filled with memories of carpooling to school, community picnics, and barbecues where dreams and laughter wove a tapestry of hope. But now, staring at the faces around him, he felt every moment of disappointment wash over him. Behind their professional smiles, he could see the cold prejudice lurking in their eyes, and it twisted his stomach like a fist. How could they dismiss his hard work and dedication? Who did they think they were? Life had handed Jordan the cards of adversity, yet each of those hands had made him stronger. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the days that followed, the echoes of betrayal lingered. He sought solace among his friends, sharing barbecues and beers that melted the weight of his heartbreak. They reminded him of the warmth of their bonds, how they had each other's backs through thick and thin. For the first time, Jordan felt a flicker of defiance replace despair. No longer would he allow their prejudice to define his worth, nor let the corporate ladder become a chokehold. Fueled by righteous anger and a thirst for justice, he unearthed their secrets, sparked the resolve of his community, and crafted a plan that shimmered with possibility. It was a dangerous gamble, one that could cost him everything, but one thing was certain, he couldn't sit idly by and let his story end here. As the day of confrontation approached, the air was thick with anticipation. Jordan's heart raced as he prepared to step back into the boardroom, feeling the heaviness of their past judgments bearing down on him. Would he be strong enough to expose their fabric of lies? As he crossed the threshold once more, he wondered, could one man's truth topple an empire built on deceit? The weight of history rested on his shoulders, poised to send shockwaves through a company long overdue for reckoning. Jordan stood at the entrance of the boardroom, his breath catching as memories flooded back. The polished wood of the table gleamed like a mirage. He'd once seen this space as a launch pad for ideas, for revolution. Now it felt more like a cage, heavy with expectation and betrayal. He took a step inside. The air crackled with tension, as if everyone was on edge, waiting for him to make his move. The board members shifted in their seats, exchanging furtive glances. A couple shot him thinly veiled looks of disdain, others looked away entirely, unwilling to engage with their guilt. That made his determination burn brighter. Jordan, began one of the board members, a woman with sharply cut gray hair who always played the political game better than anyone he knew. Let's talk this through. No, Jordan interrupted, his voice steady but laced with intensity. I'm not here to discuss my firing. I'm here to expose the real issues. He leaned in, resting his palms against the table, echoing the strength he'd learned from his mother. You all think this is just about me? This is about a system that has oppressed people from my community for far too long. It's about the hidden injustices that you've perpetuated and turned a blind eye to. The room fell silent, the weight of his words pushing against the barriers they'd always maintained. There had been whispers of discontent about the company culture, but he's been dismissed as too sensitive, too focused on diversity instead of profits. But every day, while they played their games, real lives were impacted. One of the board members, a man with a perpetual frown, challenged him. Are you suggesting we're at fault? This isn't about race, this is about business. Jordan felt the heat of that accusation. You're right. This isn't just about race. It's about the lack of integrity in how you've operated. It's about the policies that favor a select few while marginalizing others, hiding behind technicalities and policies that serve to protect only you. He could see the tension in their faces, a mix of fear and anger. Good. They needed to be afraid. This was his moment to reclaim his narrative. Jordan continued, his voice rising with passion. I've gathered testimonials from employees, those brave enough to share their experiences. This isn't just my story anymore, it's a collective cry for change. And if you think the public isn't ready to hear it, just wait until they learn the truth about your practices. A murmur spread through the room. Faces turned from bemused to concerned. This was it. He felt like a dam had burst within him, the truth flooding out with a strength he didn't know he possessed. Those who had sidelined him would have to face the consequences of their complacency. Jordan paused, soaking in the reaction. You have a choice. You can begin the process of righting these wrongs, or I'll make sure this story reaches every media outlet in the country. I will not let your arrogance destroy what I've worked for and what so many have endured. The tension crackled, the air hanging thick between them. For a moment, it felt like they were trapped in a game of chicken, eyes locked in a silent standoff where neither wanted to budge. Just then, the room's heavy atmosphere lightened, interrupted by a nervous cough from the corner. One of the younger board members, visibly shaken but inspired, spoke up. Jordan, I believe you. I've seen things that his words hung in the air, a sliver of hope interwoven with fear. Could this one voice spark a cascade of truth from the others? As Jordan prepared to hear the truth spill over, he realized this moment was just the beginning. He had rattled the cage. But would he be able to ignite the courage in them to confront their collective failings, or would the fear still hold them captive? The clock ticked slowly, and the weight of tension surged once again. What would they choose, change or silence? Jordan, I can't stand by and let this go on, the young board member continued, his voice quivering yet resolute. I've witnessed the layoffs, the unequal promotions, it's not right. The murmurs turned into a soft din, a ripple of realization washing over the room. It was the first crack, like a small pebble causing a massive landslide. Jordan's heart raced, fueled by newfound hope. Other board members began shifting uncomfortably, their faces betraying their disbelief. Are you really going to let him say this? The gray-haired woman snapped, her sharp words cutting through the tension. Think about your careers. You want to throw it all away. But what about doing what's right? Another voice chimed in, just as shaky but braver. It was a man Jordan hadn't noticed before, a quiet accountant with sad eyes. We've watched enough injustice. It's time we face it together. Jordan felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety take hold. They were starting to stand up, maybe even for him. But he knew this was only the beginning. Courage was contagious, but fear was equally powerful. Change doesn't come easy, he said, his voice firm. We'll have to confront the ugly truth, handle backlash, and deal with the fallout. But it must be done. It starts here, right now. The board members exchanged glances, weighing his words. Some looked inspired, while others seemed furious at the thought of disruption. With great effort, he fought the urge to flinch at their reactions. This was a critical moment. Would they unite or scatter like dust in the wind? Think about the employees, he pressed on. This goes beyond our positions. We owe it to them, their stories, their struggles, they matter. Do you think the press will care about that? The gray-haired woman shot back, her tone defensive. They wouldn't even put it in a headline. Maybe they wouldn't, Jordan replied, locking eyes with her. But we can be the ones to change that narrative. If we're going to climb out of this pit of greed and fear, we need to be genuinely transparent. A heavy silence fell. Time stretched as every second felt like an eternity. Jordan could feel the weight of history on his shoulders, the burdens of those who had come before him pressing down, but also a surge of faith in the possibility of change. Suddenly, the younger board member leaned forward, his palms flat against the table. What if we create a task force? A group dedicated to addressing these issues directly, to advocate for our employees in real time? Jordan's heart swelled at the idea. This could be a turning point, a true partnership in confronting the company's failings. More voices joined in, hashing out details, the anxiety slowly melting into collaboration, yet, a pit settled in his stomach. Would the momentum sustain itself once the board meeting ended? And what would happen when they faced the backlash of powerful executives who thrived in the shadows? As discussions buzzed around him, Jordan knew they could be stepping onto a slippery slope. He could almost hear the murmurs of dissent echoing through the halls, hinting at the turbulence ahead. But as he glanced at the faces of his fellow board members, a flicker of determination ignited in their eyes. They were no longer just spectators. Some glimpsed a path forward. "Let us make this matter," he said, his voice steady and full of resolve. "Let us be the change this company desperately needs." But as they began to rally around the idea, Jordan was left anxious about the next steps. Moments later, he felt a chill ripple through the group, the doors swung open, and a suit-clad figure entered the company's COO, a formidable opponent. "What is going on here?" the man demanded, his eyes narrowing. It was clear he sensed a fracture, but would he seek to mend it, or shatter their fragile solidarity? In that instant, Jordan understood that the battle was only just beginning. Would they turn this situation into a movement, or would the fear of confrontation extinguish their flame? Uncertainty loomed like storm clouds on the horizon, and Jordan had to brace himself for the impending storm. The COO's presence filled the room with a palpable tension, the air thick with unspoken fears. Jordan felt his heart thudding in his chest. This wasn't just an idle threat, it was a warning bell, harsh and jarring. Everyone's eyes turned to him, as if awaiting his cue, expecting him to lead them through the chaos. "Just discussing some changes we're proposing," Jordan said, forcing a casual tone, though his palms felt slick against the table. He looked around at the board members, many of whom wore masks of confusion mixed with anxiety. "Changes that could help our employees and the company as a whole." The COO's lips curled into a thin smile that held no warmth. "Changes, you say? You mean to say you're considering opening old wounds instead of sticking to what's proven? That's dangerous thinking." His words dripped with skepticism, each one a warning shot. Jordan clenched his fists under the table, the weight of the moment settling heavy on his shoulders. "I believe it's time for us to stand up for what's right. This isn't just about the bottom line anymore. This is about people, our employees. They deserve a voice. Are you willing to sacrifice your positions for their voice, Jordan?" The COO snapped, his eyes narrowing dangerously. "Because that's precisely what you're doing by pursuing this line of thought. If you want to bring this up, consider who you're really putting at risk." Jordan felt like he had been slapped. The gravity of the COO's threat hung over him like a storm cloud. Silence swept through the room, each board member suddenly aware of the risks posed. "What I see, Jordan, isn't bravery. It looks more like recklessness, the kind of recklessness that pulls this entire organization down with you," the COO said, crossing his arms over his chest. The room shifted, some board members fidgeting nervously. Others were visibly torn, caught between the fear of the COO and the fiery conviction ignited by Jordan's words. The discussion had shifted drastically, and Jordan didn't want to retreat. Are we really going to let fear dictate our actions? He pressed on, feeling a surge of adrenaline. If we don't do this now, when will we? A few courageous nods emerged from the faces around him, but they were still overshadowed by the COO's threatening demeanor. Fear has kept us all in line, but it's time for change. We owe it to those we've overlooked. His words hung in the air, electricity coursing through him as he surrendered himself to the moment. The COO scoffed. You think you have support? You're about to lose the trust of everyone around you. As tension built, the flicker of determination in the younger member's eyes grew bolder. "I'm with Jordan," he said, lifting his chin defiantly. "We've been complacent for too long. Can't we forge a path together?" A ripple of agreement spread through the group, but the COO's scowl deepened. "You all need to remember who you're dealing with." He stepped closer, unsheathing his authority. "One bad move, and we'll not only lose sight of this company's goals but also face serious repercussions." Jordan felt a rush of fear mingling with the courage that had sparked that day. He had unsettled the waters, but now he wondered if they could withstand the wave. Suddenly, with a voice filled with desperation and courage, a woman spoke up from the back of the room. "What are we really afraid of? We're better together. Can't we unify for something greater?" Tension coiled tightly, the COO's countenance contorting with irritation but not yet breaking. Jordan sensed victory or defeat hung by a thread, ready to snap. "Are we truly going to stand here and allow intimidation to quench our fire?" he murmured, feeling more alive than ever. Facing the looming figure, he continued, "Change begins now, with us." But the COO's smirk widened. It was a warning and a challenge all at once. "You think you're ready for the consequences? Show me your strength, or get ready to face the fallout." As Jordan locked eyes with the COO, the weight of the moment crashed down around him, rendering him nearly breathless with the sheer intensity of what lay ahead. The room was alive with uncertainty, but amidst it all, Jordan glimpsed the shimmering possibility of triumph. Would they rise to meet the challenge, or would they retreat into the shadows? As hesitance hung in the balance, Jordan steadied his gaze, pushing down the doubt that threatened to creep in. Together with his fellow board members, they would face whatever storm awaited, but deep down, he feared one thing: how far would the COO go to guard his empire against disruption? The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, before a voice cut through the tension again. "We're not just afraid of losing our jobs," someone whispered, breaking the momentary stillness that hung like a thick fog. It was Sarah, the quietest member of the board, known for her sharp insights but rarely offering a loud opinion. "We're afraid of doing the right thing and losing everything we've built our lives around." Jordan's heart raced as he absorbed her words. It wasn't just the COO they were up against. It was a systemic fear, a fear that clung to the very foundation of the company they all worked for, that had seeped into their bones. "But what if we start building something greater?" he challenged, the fire within igniting anew. "What if our legacy could be one of courage and integrity rather than profit at all costs?" The COO's expression hardened, his gaze flicking from one board member to another, searching for signs of disobedience. "You think this is about courage? This is about survival. Your own survival." The threat in his voice was unmistakable, chilling the air a few degrees. Jordan wouldn't back down. "I'm not willing to stay silent anymore. None of us should be. We owe it to the people who work tirelessly for this company, the ones who deserve respect and representation." As the words echoed in the room, he could see the flicker of doubt in some board members' eyes shifting to boldness. They were at a crossroads, and Jordan had thrown down the gauntlet, creating a path forward that looked daunting but liberating. He sensed a collective yearning for change, brewing beneath the surface and ready to spill over if they just seized the moment. A woman seated at the far end nodded fervently, and one by one, others began to chime in, their voices gaining strength. "Let us not just be a company," she urged, her voice trembling with emotion. "Let us be a community. We can lead the way, change the narrative of this industry." Jordan could see some of them visibly wrestling with their decisions. The COO's anger had turned to a simmering rage, but he seemed to realize he was losing ground. His lips thinned as he fought to keep control over the room. "You're playing a dangerous game," he warned, but it fell flat against the mounting resolve filling the room. In that moment, something inside Jordan shifted. He could feel the energy pulsating through the group, a shared alignment against the status quo. A wave of camaraderie washed over him, grounding him amid the chaos. This wasn't just about the company, it was about everyone fighting together to create a better future. Without hesitation, he leaned in, his voice firm and unwavering. "If we fall, we fall together. But I'd rather do that than live in fear. The COO's eyes darkened, and Jordan felt a knot form in his stomach. He knew they were on the brink of something monumental. It wasn't just a board meeting anymore, it was a declaration of war against the silence that had allowed injustice to breed. Make your choice, everyone, the COO hissed, his voice low and menacing. Together or apart. I promise you, the consequences will be dire. As the tension reached its peak, a young board member spoke up with newfound bravery. I stand with Jordan. I'll choose action over ignorance any day. A ripple of agreement swept through the room, emboldening some, shaking others. Jordan's heart thudded in his chest. Would they stand together? Sam, another member known for his loyalty, finally chimed in. We can't ignore this any longer. We have a chance to do something great. I want in. With every new voice rising in solidarity, Jordan felt hope surge against the COO's oppressive authority. The room was alive, roaring with the echoes of empowerment, threatening to drown out the past. The COO's scorn turned into fury, but no longer could it frighten them into submission. I'll be damned if we let fear rule us. He bellowed, but it was a feeble attempt to persuade them. The tide was turning, and he could sense that as the voices rose together, a trailblazing realization dawned upon Jordan. This was the moment that would define their collective destiny. They could create a company culture that reflected their values, one rooted in empathy and action. But as they took their first step, a chilling thought struck him. What repercussions would they face as they faced down the COO? Facing that potential fallout was a daunting prospect. Would their newfound unity withstand the storm brewing on the horizon? Would they have the strength to see their vision through? With uncertainty clawing at his gut, Jordan knew that the real battle had only just begun. The air crackled with unease as the room erupted in voices, each filled with differing degrees of fear and determination. Jordan felt buoyed by the surge of support, but he could still taste the bitterness of doubt. What would happen when the dust settled? Would they all find their jobs intact, or had they just signed their own resignation letters? As the board members rallied, a palpable energy filled the room. Jordan locked eyes with Sarah, who had lifted her chin slightly, her expression transforming from hesitance to fierce resolution. We can't turn back now, she whispered to him, her voice steady. We need to coordinate how we present this to everyone. If we want real change, we have to be strategic. Absolutely, he agreed, feeling the weight of her words. We need to find a way to articulate our vision to the entire company. They're not just employees, they're our greatest asset. Just then, the COO slammed his fist down on the table, making everyone jump. You're naive to think this will work. His voice was like ice, cutting through their rising hope. You'll see the panic when others realize what you're really suggesting. You think they'll follow you? Your little rebellion will be crushed before it even starts. But Jordan saw the fire in his colleague's eyes, and he couldn't let fear have the last word. We're not backing down, he declared. We can craft a new identity for this company, one built on trust and support. People want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. The COO scoffed, but Jordan could sense the edge of desperation in his demeanor. It was a universal truth, behind every tyrant lay an even deeper fear of losing control. The murmur of the group shifted as realization washed over them, igniting a collective determination that had been buried for far too long. One by one, ideas began flooding the room. A plan emerged, a proposal to host a company-wide meeting that would lay out their intentions and invite input. They would gather as equals. We need to showcase what genuine leadership looks like, suggested Sam. If we present ourselves as a united front, it may inspire others to open their eyes. With every plan that formed, Jordan's heart swelled a little more. This vision wasn't just his anymore, it belonged to them all. The COO could feel the tide slipping, a hurricane of ambition rising against a fortress built on fear. After a few moments, Jordan looked at the COO, drawing everyone's attention. This doesn't have to end poorly for you either. There's still time to pivot. We can make this a better place for all of us. The COO's face hardened, and for a second, Jordan sensed a flicker of something beneath the bravado uncertainty. Recognition. But it vanished almost instantly. You're making a grave mistake, and I'll make sure everyone knows that. Jordan felt the weight of that threat sink in, a chilling reminder of the risks ahead. Then let them know, he replied, his voice steady. But we won't be intimidated anymore. With resolve building, they left the meeting, each step forging a sense of purpose. They would fight back not just for their jobs, but for a future where employees didn't just survive, but thrive together. As they dispersed, Jordan lingered a moment longer, the COO's furious eyes boring into him. He could feel the pull of the storm waiting outside, a whirlwind of change that could either shatter the glass ceiling or bury them in the rubble of indecision. What if we lose everything? A voice from behind broke his thoughts. It was Sarah, still worried, and as he turned to face her, Jordan knew that was the question they all needed to confront. The fear of loss was only one part of the equation. What would they find in the effort of trying? As he faced the unknown, a fierce determination filled him. They had ignited a spark that could transform everything. But would they be ready for the backlash? Would they find the strength to rise, or would they crumble under the weight of expectations they had fought to change? The fire in his belly answered his fear a loud and definitive yes. But as the door swung shut behind him, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle lay ahead, and he could almost taste the bitterness of betrayal looming in the dark. Jordan stepped out of the meeting, the door closing with a finality that echoed in his chest. Outside, the air felt thick, heavy with the promise of storm clouds gathering on the horizon. It was odd, this feeling of anticipation mingled with dread. People were chatting in small groups, but something hung in the air, unspoken yet palpable. All eyes darted toward him. What is going to happen next? Sarah asked, her brow creased in worry, mirroring the uncertainty shared by countless others in the office. You really think they'll support us? Spurred on by her vulnerability, Jordan took a deep breath and nodded. They're counting on us. If we show them we believe in a new direction, they'll believe too. As if on cue, the HR manager, Tom, approached them. Hey, I just heard what you guys proposed. I want to be part of this, but I'm scared. What if they retaliate against us for speaking up? His voice quivered, revealing the cracks behind his confident facade. The weight of concern surged through the group. Fear could spread faster than a wildfire if left unchecked. It was crucial not only to illuminate their vision but to shield their colleagues from the fallout that could follow. We need to sound the alarm, Jordan urged, his thoughts racing. We need to ensure everyone knows what's at stake. Are you sure? Sarah asked, looking at Jordan. We might lose everything. The fear of loss lingered, but so did the inkling of hope. I'd rather fight for something that matters than stand by and watch it crumble. Emboldened by resolve, they decided to pull together a rally for the entire department. Through whispers, hurried conversations, and frantic text messages, they spread the word. They would gather in the large conference room the next day and lay it all on the line. Together. As Jordan returned to his desk, the impending presence of the COO loomed large in his mind. Would he retaliate? Would he attempt to crush their newfound spirit before it had a chance to flourish? For the first time, he didn't feel quite so alone. Each person gathering with them would share the burden and the potential glory. The next morning arrived, bright and deceptively calm. The conference room filled quickly, energy vibrating through the air like static. Faces that had been worn with worry were now etched with anticipation. Jordan stood at the front, Sarah by his side, and Tom fidgeted nervously, barely staying still. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words stumbled, caught in the web of tension. Thank you all for coming. We're here to discuss what we can do to change this company together, but that means we will have to be honest about how we feel. As he laid out their vision, an inclusive corporate future built on trust, he finally saw it. Heads nodded, uncertain but hopeful. It was a flicker, but it was clear. He felt energized, ready to transform fear into action. Then, just as he was about to unveil their unified demands, the COO barged in, his presence darkening the room. "What's this? A little gathering for the disgruntled?" The collective gasp sent a shockwave through the audience, but Jordan's heart beat louder than the fear. He locked eyes with Sarah. This was at the moment of truth. Would they stand together, or would the weight of his threats shatter their resolve? He stepped forward, speaking against the rising tide of panic. But could he maintain his confidence when faced with the storm that was about to break? "What will we choose, fear or unity?" Jordan's voice rang out, cutting through the distress. The answer lingered in the air, a question poised for revolution. As their gaze shifted back to the COO, he could almost hear the silence echoing with possibility and danger. Would they have the strength to defy him, or would they find themselves crushed under the weight of fear? The COO glared at Jordan, his eyes narrowing as if assessing the best way to dismantle the fragile unity in the room. Jordan could feel the tension crackling like electricity, ready to ignite. Everyone was waiting. Would they rally together or scatter? Gatherings like this usually end in one way, the COO sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. A handful of loud voices thinking they can change the way things work here. You think power belongs to the majority? You're mistaken. Each word was a cold slap. People flinched, but Jordan sensed something else beneath their fear, a simmering resolve. He had to channel that energy. "We don't believe that." He shot back, letting courage fuel his words. "We believe in something better. We believe in using our voices for change, and we're not afraid to stand together." The COO stepped closer, a predator inching towards its prey. "And if I decided to cut off your little experiment right here? You wouldn't want that." Jordan's heart raced. The threat hung in the air, stark and tangible. But as he glanced around the room, he saw heads lifting, shoulders squaring, and wary eyes hardening with determination. This was no longer just his battle, it was theirs. He could almost taste the courage that blossomed in the space between them. "Look around," Jordan urged, raising his voice. "We're not alone. We are here because we believe in a brighter future, and if we're together, we can't be silenced." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, igniting sparks of affirmation. Sarah nodded encouragingly, her own voice rising. "Together we can change the narrative. We can't let fear hold us back anymore." The COO faltered, his expression flickering between disbelief and irritation. It was apparent that he didn't expect this spirited challenge. The murmurs grew louder, voices blending into a powerful chorus. Tom, steadied by the collective courage, joined in, bravely proclaiming, "We deserve respect. We deserve to be heard." Tension etched on the COO's face twisted into frustration. "This is not how you want to play it. You think you can simply call for revolution and go unpunished?" Jordan refused to back down. "We're not asking for permission anymore. We're standing up for what is right. If that means we take risks, so be it." There it was, a shift. The air felt lighter as fear turned into collective strength. People began to echo Jordan's sentiments, each person's words amplifying the hope that had taken root in the chaos. The COO was now outnumbered, his attempts to intimidate reduced to a mere swipe at a flame, but he was backed into a corner of his own making, and that was dangerous. "You all think there won't be repercussions?" he growled, fists clenching at his sides. "You're in over your heads." Jordan didn't waver. "We are aware of the risks. But we'd rather stand up and lose everything than stay silent and watch this company collapse." A low hum filled the room, voices intertwining into a tapestry of resolve. They faced the storm brewing outside, not just of the weather but of their future. And in that moment, they felt unbreakable, yet, just as the tide seemed to be turning, the COO's phone buzzed in his pocket, and the glint in his eye returned. Whatever it wasn't good. "Let us see how long you'll stand together," he said with a twisted smile, raising the phone. Instead of a rallying cry, "How about I make a few calls?" Jordan's heart sank, instincts screaming that something bigger was coming. Would they be ready to fully embrace the fight? Would they stand fast against what was about to unfold? The stakes had just escalated, Jordan could feel it deep in his bones. But one thing lingered in the air, heavy and alive. The door to a change they may not be ready for had just swung wide open. And as fear turned into a call for unity, just how far were they willing to go? The COO's fingers tapped furiously against the screen of his phone, the tension in the room heightening with every second. Jordan's heart raced. He felt as if the very walls were closing in, the collective breath of the crowd held tight in their chests. There was something sinister about the COO's crooked smile, and Jordan knew that whatever was on the other end of that line had the potential to dismantle everything they had just built. "Who are you calling?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the thick air. "If you think you can silence us with threats, you're wrong." The COO looked up, his gaze sharp. "You'll see, Jordan. Just watch. The winds of change might not blow in your direction today." With that, he turned his back, pacing as he spoke into the phone, confidence oozing from his every move. Jordan glanced around the room, reading the faces that surrounded him. Fear mingled with a steely determination. Some looked ready to jump ship, but others, Sarah, Tom, a few faces he hadn't seen before, still radiated resolve. They had come too far to back down now. "I'm not sure what his plan is, but we have to stand firm," Sarah said, her eyes darting as she calculated the best way forward. Her voice wavered only slightly. "He might try to scare us, but we can't let him. We need to prepare for what's about to come." Jordan nodded, fortified by her sentiment. "Let us not wait for him to make the first move. We can start organizing now. Everyone needs to know we won't be intimidated." The crowd murmured in agreement as they shared their ideas, a map of strategies unfurling amongst them. The energy felt electric, fear was morphing into something productive. It was time to channel their collective power into an actionable plan. As the COO's voice faded in the background, Jordan decided to take charge. "Okay, everyone needs to know the truth. We need to prepare a public statement, clarify our intentions. If we're going to move forward, we have to hold our ground." Suddenly, the COO turned back, a sinister parade of confidence across his face. "You want to tell everyone the truth? That you're just a bunch of disgruntled employees trying to play catch-up? I'll make sure the higher-ups hear this little rebellion of yours." Jordan met his gaze. "Go ahead. The truth will come out one way or another." A flicker of uncertainty passed over the COO's face, just for a moment. "You think this is child's play, Jordan? I'd say you're all seriously underestimating the power of this company. It's not just me you're dealing with." The murmur of voices rose again, louder and more fervent, fueled by the COO's growl. The fear was intoxicating, but it only seemed to bolster their resolve. This was theirs to stake a claim on. "Let him make those calls," a voice from the back shouted. "Let them know we're not going away." Nods of agreement rippled through the room, building a chorus of bravery. It felt undeniable now, a unity that could topple towers. Yet, just as they felt the weight of their decision, the COO spoke again. "You think you're ready for the fallout? The kinds of consequences that come with confrontation? I guess we'll find out soon enough." Jordan's stomach twisted, understanding the implications. Would they face retribution? He had prepared them for a fight, but the stakes were now more real than ever. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together," he said, summoning the strength from deep within. "That's what changes things. Solidarity." But in the pit of his stomach was a gnawing fear of the unknown. Just how far would they have to march into the fray with the COO loitering on the edge, his phone still in hand? As tension shattered the air, Jordan scanned the room, concerned whispers barely cutting through his thoughts. Indeed, what was lurking behind that wicked smile could unravel everything before they even had a chance to fight back. Just how deep did the COO's influence run? And were they truly ready for the battle ahead? Jordan stood at the edge of chaos, the COO's menacing presence looming over him like a storm cloud. The room buzzed with tension and defiance, their collective heartbeats drumming a powerful rhythm of change. He locked eyes with Sarah, who mirrored his determination, both of them fully aware they had sparked a wildfire within their ranks. This was no longer just about Jordan, it was about everyone daring to stand up against the injustice that had run unchecked for too long. The COO, sensing the shift, smirked condescendingly, a predator circling its prey. Bold words won't make your rebellion any less foolish. You're not prepared for the consequences. The threat heralded impending fallout, but something within Jordan ignited a fire that wouldn't be extinguished so easily. No retreat, he said, raising his voice above the cacophony in the room. If fear is what holds us back, then it's time to confront it together. The impact of our voices outweighs his threats. We have allies rising up amongst us. As he spoke, nods of agreement flowed through the crowd like a ripple, growing into a wave of courage. He could see the fear disappearing, replaced by a steely resolve that galvanized the room in unity. Voices chimed in, each fueled with resolve. Let him call for backup. We have numbers, and we have truth on our side. Someone called, and the energy surged. There was a palpable shift, each breath felt like a promise to dismantle the oppressive structure around them. Jordan's heart raced as he stepped further into the spotlight. We will rally our colleagues and spread our vision. We're not just striving for survival, we're demanding a change that uplifts everyone. He could feel the COO's irritation simmering. You think these voices will change anything? Where's your proof? You all think you can just gather and make your demands. Jordan didn't flinch. No, we won't just make demands, we will light a path toward action. We'll host town halls, engage in dialogues. Together, we'll redefine this company's culture, rooted in mutual respect and integrity. And with that, the crowd erupted in support. Jordan could hear the echoes of his community resonating in the room, their collective power now overwhelmingly visible. Right now, we are overthrowing fear. We're forging trust, something that will echo beyond this room. Our stance is intersectionality, our ethos is empathy. He declared. Something shifted in the COO's demeanor, the confidence that had been so brash took a step back. You're making mistakes. He raised his phone threateningly, a signal echoing the depth of his authority. Do you really want to test me? That's what you don't understand, Sarah interjected, stepping beside Jordan with conviction. We're not afraid of you anymore. How long can you hide behind this facade before the truth comes to light? Jordan nodded fiercely. The world deserves to see the ugly underbelly of this company's reign. We will not falter in our fight for justice. The murmurs of agreement swirled into a roaring chorus, feeding their momentum. The COO's lips pressed together tightly. He understood he was losing control. Consider this a warning. With that, he stormed from the room, the doors slamming behind him with thunderous finality. No one flinched, each person stood tall, shoulders squared, breathing life into every word spoken. They were redefining the landscape, paving a route toward radical transformation. Soon after, Tom stepped up, his voice steady but energized. Let's draft a public letter. Show our intentions not just to the company, but to the world, he said. We'll lay it all out, the changes we want, how those changes benefit us, all of us as a family. With that idea, a plan ignited, illuminating a path that had previously felt ensnared in darkness. Coordinating efforts, the board members began drafting statements, holding discussions, and planning for a future that leaned towards justice. As the days turned into weeks, reverberations of their stance spread throughout the company, a ripple effect of empowerment touching every department. Employees, previously silent, found their voices, sharing stories of denial, restraint, and injustice. Each testimonial added weight to their cause. Finally, the day came to present their proposal at the company's annual meeting. Jordan stood in the spotlight, Sarah at his side, both embodying a resolve that felt historical. They articulated everything: the truths, the pain, and, above all, the hope for a collective future. This isn't merely about restructuring our company, Jordan stated with conviction, but about reshaping our legacy. It's time for every employee to feel heard, cherished, and valued. Applause erupted across the packed room. Employees stood, roaring their approval, echoing sentiments that spilled into the hallways. What started as whispers of doubt had matured into a unified agreement, a revolution of the heart focused on compassionate action. As the dust settled, Jordan felt that heavy weight lift. No longer was he a solitary figure swept away by betrayal. Together, they had transformed themselves from pawns into leaders, striking down the walls that previously held them captive. Amidst the backdrop of the transformed corporate landscape, Jordan smiled, his heart swelling with pride. They had not just ignited change, they had forged a community built on resilience. The triumph over fear had morphed into a shimmering future, a future where every voice was heard, and every dream cherished. This was what it meant to rise together. Now, if you felt a fire in your heart throughout this journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure more hearts feel this incredible tale of transformation. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. What moves you to stand united? And don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey toward change. Only true fans know the impact of this message.